Good morning, West Coast Nazarenes. Welcome to day 8 of our 60-day journey through the Bible. Today we'll be finishing the book of Numbers, and one of the themes that we're starting to see is how the Israelites' hearts would be for God and against God. And, well, they saw a lot of miracles, and yet they walked back a lot of the time. So today I just would like to start with a prayer that we would follow God and not stray from His path and allow Him to lead us. And I hear that as we look into your word more, we'll see your guidance for us and your direction for us. And I just pray that we all take that to heart. And so, in that vein of thought, today I have decided to start with the song Change My Heart, Oh God.
Change my heart, make it ever true. Change my heart, may I be like you. Change my heart,
And without further ado, let's get into our reading for the day. We pick up again in Numbers, and starting with Numbers chapter 18. The Lord said to Aaron, You and your sons and your family are to bear the responsibility for offenses connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons alone are to bear the responsibility for your offenses connected with the priesthood. Bring your fellow Levites from their ancestral tribe to join you and assist you when your sons minister before the tent of the covenant law. They are to be responsible to you and to perform all duties of the tent, but they must not go near the furnishings of the sanctuary, or otherwise they and you will die. They are to join you at the altar, other responsible for the care of the tent of the meeting, the work of the tent, and the rest, all the work of the tent, and no one else may come near where you are. You are to be responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the altar, so that my wrath will not fall on the Israelites again. I myself has selected your fellow Levites from among the Israelites as a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord to do the work of the tent of the meeting, but only you and your sons may serve as my priests. In connection with everything at the altar and inside the curtain, I am giving you to the service of the priesthood as a gift. Anyone else who comes near the sanctuary is to be put to death. Then the Lord said to Aaron, I myself have put you in charge of the offerings presented to me. All holy offerings the Israelites give me, I give to you and your sons as your portion, your perpetual share. You are to have the part of the most holy offerings that is kept from the fire, from all the gifts they bring to me as most holy offerings, whether grain or sin or guilt offerings. That part belongs to you and your sons. Eat it as something most holy. Every male shall eat it. You must regard it as holy. This also is yours. Whatever is set aside from the gifts of all the wave offerings of the Israelites, I give this to you and your sons and daughters as your perpetual share. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. I give you all the finest olive oil and all the finest new wine and grain they give the Lord as first fruits of the harvest. All the land's first fruits they bring to the Lord will be yours. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. Everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours. The first offspring of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem the firstborn son and every firstborn male of unclean animals. When they are a month old, you must redeem them at the redemption price set at 5 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel, which weighs 20 gerahs. But you must not redeem the firstborn of a cow or a sheep or a goat. They are holy. Splash their blood against the altar and burn their fat as a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Their meat is to be yours, just as the breast of the wave offering and the right thigh are yours. Whatever is set aside from the holy offerings of the Israelites presented to the Lord, I give to you and your sons and daughters as your perpetual share. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before the Lord for both you and your offspring. The Lord said to Aaron, you have no inheritance in the land, nor will you have any share among them. I am your share and your inheritance among the Israelites. I give to the Levites all the tithes of in Israel as their inheritance in return for the work they do while serving at the tent of meeting. From now on, the Israelites must not go near the tent of meeting, or they will bear the consequences of their sin, and they will die. It is the Levites who are to do the work at the tent of meeting and bear the responsibility for any offenses they commit against it. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. They will receive no inheritance among the Israelites. Instead, I give to the Levites as their inheritance the tithes that the Israelites present as an offering to the Lord. This is why I said concerning them, they will have no inheritance among the Israelites. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Levites and say to them, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe I give as your inheritance, you must present a tenth of that tithe as the Lord's offering. Your offering will be reckoned to you as grain from the threshing floor or juice from the winepress. In this way you will also present an offering to the Lord from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites. From the tithes you must give to the Lord's portion to Aaron. From these tithes you must give the Lord's portion to Aaron the priest. You must present as the Lord's portion the best and holiest part of everything given to you. Say to the Levites, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned to you as product of the threshing floor of the winepress. You and your households may eat the rest of it anywhere, for it is your wages and your work at the tent of the meeting. By presenting the best part of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. Then you will not defile the holy offerings of the Israelites, and you will not die. Numbers chapter 19. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under yoke. Give it to Eleazar the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. There, Eleazar the priest is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned, its hide, flesh, blood, and intestines. The priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool, and throw them into the burning heifer. To throw them onto the burning heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He may then come into the camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean until evening. The man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he too will be unclean until evening. A man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They are to be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleansing. It is for purification from sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he too will be unclean until evening. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelites and for the foreigners residing among them. Whoever touches a human corpse will be unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves with the water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day then they will be clean. But if they do not purify themselves on the 3rd and 7th days, they will not be clean. If they fail to purify themselves after touching a human corpse, they defile the Lord's tabernacle. They must be cut off from Israel. Because the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them, they are unclean. Their uncleanness remains on them. This is the law that applies when a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent and anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days, and every open container without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. Anyone out in the open who touches someone who has been killed with a sword, or someone who has died a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. For the unclean person, put some ashes from the burnt purification offering into a jar and pour fresh water over them. The man who is ceremonially clean is to take some hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle the tent and all the furnishings and all the people who were there. He must also sprinkle anyone who touched the human bone or a grave, or anyone who has been killed, or anyone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle those who are unclean on the 3rd, 7th days, and on the 7th day he is to purify them. Those who are being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe in water, and that evening they will be clean. But if those who are unclean do not purify themselves, they must be cut off from the community, because they have defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them, and they are unclean. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkles the water on the cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of cleansing will be unclean until evening. Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean until evening. Numbers chapter 20. In the 1st month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people quarreled in the community. And the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." And Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance to the tent of the meeting and fell face down. The glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring out water from the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink." So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them. These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord, and he was proven holy among them. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, this is what your brother Israel says. You know about all the hardships that have come on us. Our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived there for many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our ancestors, but we cried out to the Lord. He heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. Now we are here at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard or drink any water from any well. We will travel on the king's highway and not turn to the right or the left until we have passed through your territory. But Edom answered, you may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with the sword. The Israelites replied, we will go along the main road, and if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. Again they answered, you may not pass through. Then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. Since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. At Mount Hor, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I give the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Get Aaron and his son Eleazar and take them up to Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, for Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will die there. Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up to Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses removed Aaron's garment and put them on his son Eleazar, and Aaron died there on the top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain, and when the whole community learned that Aaron had died, all the Israelites mourned for him 30 days. Numbers chapter 21. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to Atharim, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. Then Israel made this vow to the Lord, if you will deliver these people into our hands, we will totally destroy their cities. The Lord listened to Israel's plea and gave the Canaanites over to them. They completely destroyed them and their towns, so the place was named Hormah. They traveled from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom, but the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and Moses and said, why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, we sinned when we spoke against the Lord, and you pray to the Lord that he will take the snakes from us. So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. The Israelites moved on and camped at Oboth. Then they set out from Oboth and camped in Li-Abiram, in the wilderness that faces Moab toward the sunrise. From there they moved on and camped at Zered Valley. There they set out from there and camped along the Arnon, which is in the wilderness extending to Amorite territory. The Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. That is why the book of the wars of the Lord says, Zahab in Zilpah and the ravines, the Arnon, and the slopes of the ravines that lead to the settlement of Aran lie along the border of Moab. From there they continued on to Beer, the well where the Lord said to Moses, gather the people together, and I will give them water. Then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, sing about it. About the well, the princess dug, that the nobles of the people sank, the nobles with their serpents and staffs. Then they went from the wilderness to Mattanah, from Mattanah to Nahil, from Nahil to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley of Moab, where the top of the Pigah overlooks the wasteland. Israel sent messages to say to the king of the Amorites, let us pass through your country. We will not turn aside into any field or vineyard or drink from any well. We will travel along the king's highway until we have passed through your territory. But Sihon would not let Israel pass through his territory. He mustered his entire army and marched out into the wilderness against Israel. When he reached Jahaz, he fought with Israel. Israel, however, put him to the sword and took over his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, but only as far as the Ammonites, because their border was fortified. Israel captured all the cities among the Amorites and occupied them, including Heshbon and all its surrounding settlements. Heshbon was the city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken from him all his lands as far as the Arnon. That is why the poets say, "Come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt, let Sihon's city be restored." Fire went out of Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Sihon. It consumed Ar of Moab, the citizens of Aron's heights. Woe to you, Moab! You are destroyed, people of Shemosh. He has given up his sons and fugitives and his daughters and captives to Sihon, king of the Amorites. But we have overthrown them. Heshbon's dominion has been destroyed all the way to Dibon. We have demolished them as far as Nophah, which extends to Medeba. So the Israelites in the land of the Amorites, so the Israelites settled in the lands of the Amorites. After Moses had sent spies to Jazer, the Israelites captured its surrounding settlements and drove out the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went along the road towards Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, and his whole army marched out to meet them in the battle of Edrei. The Lord said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with the whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So they struck him down together with his sons and his whole army, leaving no survivors, and they took possession of his land. Numbers chapter 22. Then the Israelites traveled to the plains of Moab and camped along the Jordan from Jericho. Now Balak and the son of Zippor saw all Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was terrified because there were so many people. Indeed, Moab was filled with dread because of the Israelites. The Moabite said to the elders of Midian, "This horde is going to lick up everything around us as an ox licks up the grass in the field." So Balak, son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at the time, sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor near the Euphrates River in his native land. Balak said, "A people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the land and have settled next to me. Now come and put a curse on these people, because they are too powerful for me. Perhaps then I will be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed." The elders of Moab and Midian left, taking with them the fee for divination. When they came to Balaam, they told him what Balak had said. "Spend the night here," Balaam said to them, "and I will report back to you with the answer the Lord gives me." So the Moabite officials stayed with him. God came to Balaam and asked, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam said to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me this message. A people that has come out of Egypt covers the face of the land. Now come and put a curse on them for me. Perhaps then I will be able to fight them and drive them away." But God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them. You must not put a curse on these people, because they are blessed." The next morning Balaam got up and said to Balak's officials, "Go back to your own country, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." So the Moabite officials returned to Balak and said, "Balaam refused to come with us." Then Balak sent other officials, more numerous and more distinguished than the first. They came to Balaam and said, "This is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Do not let anything keep you from coming to me, because I will reward you handsomely and do whatever you say. Come and put a curse on these people for me." But Balaam answered them, "Even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not do anything great or small to go beyond the command of the Lord my God. Now spend the night here so that I can find out what else the Lord will tell me." That night God came to Balaam and said, "Since these men have come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you." Balaam got up in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the Moabite officials. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood on the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing on the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road to a field. Balaam beat it to get back on the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat the donkey again. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat it with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth and said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me 3 times?" Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." Then the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "No," he said. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come to oppose you, because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I would have spared it." Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with Balak's officials. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him in the Moabite town on the Arnon border at the edge of his territory. Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why didn't you come to me? Am I not really able to reward you?" "Well, I have come to you now," Balaam replied, "but I can't say whatever I please. I must speak only what God puts in my mouth." Then Balaam went with Balak to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed cattle and sheep and gave some to Balaam and the officials who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bamoth Baal, and from there he could see the outskirts of the Israelite camp. Balaam said, build me 7 altars here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me." Balak did as Balaam said, and the 2 of them offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stay here beside your offering while I go aside. Perhaps the Lord will come meet with me. Whatever he reveals, I will tell you." Then he went off to the barren height. God met with him, and Balaam said, "I have prepared 7 altars." "I have prepared 7 altars. On each altar I have offered a bull and a ram." The Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth, said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." So he went back to him and found him standing beside his offering with all the Moabite officials. Then Balaam spoke his message. "Balak brought me from Aram, the king of Moab, the eastern mountains. Come," he said, "curse Jacob for me. Come, denounce Israel. How can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce those whom the Lord has not denounced? From the rocky peaks I see them, from the heights I view them. I see a people who live apart, and who do not consider themselves one of the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, or number even a fourth of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and may my final end be like theirs." Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies, but you have done nothing but bless them." He answered, "Must I not speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" Then Balak said to him, "Come with me to another place where you can see them. You will not see them all, but only the outskirts of their camp. And from there, curse them for me." So he took him to the field of Zophim on top of Pisgah, and there he built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, "Stay here beside your offering while I meet with him over there." The Lord met with Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." So he went back to him and found him standing beside his offering with the Moabite officials. Balak asked him, "What did the Lord say?" Then he spoke his message. "Arise, Balak, and listen. Hear me, son of Zippor. God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? I have received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot change it. No misfortune is seen in Jacob, no misery observed in Israel. The Lord their God is with them. The shout of the king is among them. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. There is no divination against Jacob, no evil omens against Israel. It will now be said of Jacob and of Israel, 'See what God has done.' The people rise like a lion as they rouse themselves, like a lion that does not rest till it devours its prey and drinks the blood of its victims." Then Balak said to Balaam, "Neither curse them at all, nor bless them at all." Balaam answered, "Did I not tell you? I must do whatever the Lord says." Then Balak said to Balaam, Come, let me take you to another place. Perhaps it will please God to let you curse them for me from there. And Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, overlooking the wasteland. Balaam said, Build me 7 altars here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me. Balak did as Balaam said, and offered a bull and a ram on each. Numbers chapter 24. Now, when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not resort to divination as other times, but turned his face towards the wilderness. When Balaam looked out and saw Israel encamped by the tribe, the Spirit of God came on him, and he spoke this message. The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly, the prophecy of the one whose words of God, who sees a vision from the Almighty, who falls prostrate and whose eyes are open. How beautiful are your tents, Jacob! How your dwelling places, Israel! Like valleys, they spread out like gardens beside a river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars in the waters. Water will flow from their buckets. Their seed will have abundant water. Their king will be greater than Agag. Their kingdom will be exalted. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. They devour hostile nations and break their bones in pieces. With their arrows they pierce them. Like a lion, crouch and lie down. Like a lioness, who dares to rouse them? May those who bless you be blessed, and those who curse you be cursed. Then Balak's anger burned against Balaam. He struck his hands together and said to him, I summoned you to curse my enemies, but now you have blessed them these 3 times. Now leave at once and go home. I said I would reward you handsomely, but the Lord has kept you from being rewarded. Balaam answered Balak, Did I not tell the messengers you sent me? Even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not do anything of my own accord, good or bad, to go beyond the command of the Lord. And I must say only what the Lord says. Now I am going back to my people, but come, let me warn you of what this people will do to your people in the days to come. Then he spoke his message. The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly, the prophecy of one who hears the words of God, who has knowledge from the Most High, who sees visions from the Almighty, who falls prostrate, and whose eyes are open. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will rise out of Israel. He will crush the foreheads of Moab, the skulls of all the people of Sheth. Edom will be conquered. Seir, his enemy, will be conquered, but Israel will grow strong. A ruler will come out of Jacob and destroy the survivors of the city. Then Balaam saw Amalek and spoke his message. Amalek was first among the nations, but their end will be utter destruction. Then he saw the Kenites and spoke his message. Your dwelling place is secure, your nest is set in a rock, yet you Kenites will all be destroyed when the Asher takes you captive. Then he spoke his message. Alas, who can live when God does this? Ships will come from the shores of Cyprus. They will subdue Asher and Eber, but they will come to ruin. Then Balaam got up and returned home, and Balak went on his own way. Numbers chapter 25. While Israel was staying at Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Moabite women, who invited them to sacrifices to their god. The people ate the sacrificial meal and bowed down before those gods, so Israel yoked themselves to Baal and Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them. The Lord said to Moses, Take all the leaders of these people, kill them, and expose them in broad daylight before the Lord, so that the Lord's fierce anger may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to Israel's judges, Each of you must put to death those of your people who have yoked themselves to Baal of Peor. Then an Israelite man brought into the camp a Midianite woman right before the eyes of Moses and the whole assembly of Israel, while they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw this, he left the assembly, took a spear in hand, and followed the Israelite into the tent. He drove the spear into both of them, right through the Israelite man and into the woman's stomach. Then the plague against the Israelites was stopped, but those who died in the plague numbered 24,000. The Lord said to Moses, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, has turned my anger away from the Israelites, since he was zealous for my honor among them as I am. I did not put an end to them in my zeal. Therefore tell him I am making my covenant of peace with him. He and his descendants will have a covenant of a lasting priesthood, because he was zealous for the honor of God and made atonement for the Israelites. The name of the Israelite who was killed in the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Salu, the leader of the Simonite family, and the name of the Midianite woman who was put to death was Cosbi, daughter of Zur, a tribal chief of the Midianite family. The Lord said to Moses, treat the Midianites as enemies and kill them. They treated you as enemies when they deceived you in the Peor incident involving the sister Cosbi, the daughter of the Midianite leader, whose woman was killed when the plague came as a result of the incident. After the plague, the Lord said to Moses and Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, take a census of the whole Israelite communities by families, all those 20 years old or more who are able to serve in the army of Israel. So on the plains of Moab, by the Jordan, across from Jericho, Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them and said, take a census of the men 20 years old or more, as the Lord has commanded. These were the Israelites who came out of Egypt, the descendants of Reuben, the firstborn son of Israel, were through Hanok and the Hanokite clan, through Palu, the Palite clan, through Hezron, the Hezrite clan, through Cami, the Camerite clan. These were the clans of Reuben. Those numbered were 43,730. The son of Palu was Eliab, and his sons of Eliab were Nemuel, Dathan, and Abiram. The same Dathan and Abiram were the community officials who rebelled against Moses and Aaron, and were among Korah's followers when they rebelled against the Lord. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them, along with Korah, whose followers died when the fire devoured the 250 men, and they served as a warning sign. The line of Korah, however, did not die out. The descendants of Simeon by their clans were through Nemuel and the Nemuelite clan, through Jamin and the Jaminite clan, through Jachin and the Jachinite clan, through Zerah and the Zerite clan, through Shaul and the Shaulite clan. These were the clans of Simeon. Those numbered were 22,200. The descendants of Gad by their clans, through Zephon and the Zephonite clan, through Haggai and the Haggite clan, through Shuni and the Shunite clan, through Ozni and the Oznite clan, through Eri and the Erite clan, through Arodi and the Arodite clan, through Areli and the Arelite clan. These were the clans of the Gad. Those numbered were 40,500. Er and Onan were sons of Judah, but they died in Canaan. The descendants of Judah by their clans were through Shelah, the Shelonite clan, through Perez, the Perezite clan, through Zerah, the Zerahite clan, through the descendants of Perez were through Hezron and the Hezrite clan, through Hamel and the Hamelite clan. These were the clans of Judah. Those numbered were 76,500. The descendants of Ishkar by their clans were through Tola, the Tolite clan, through Puah, the Puite clan, through Jashab, the Jashabite clan, through Shimron, the Shimrite clan. These were the clans of Ishkar. Those numbered 64,300. The descendants of Zebulun by their clans were through Sarad, the Saradite clan, through Elon, the Elonite clan, through Jahiel, the Jahielite clan. These were the clans of Zebulun. Those numbered were 60,500. The descendants of Joseph by their clans, through Manasseh and Ephraim, were the descendants of Manasseh, through Machir and the Machirite clan. Machir was the father of Gilead, through Gilead, the Gileadite clan. These were the descendants of Gilead, through Izar, the Izrite clan, through Helek, the Helekite clan, through Azriel, the Azrielite clan, through Shechem, the Shechemite clan, through Skimida, the Skimidite clan, and through Hespher, the Hespherite clan. Zelophehad, the son of Helfer, had no sons. He had only daughters, whose names were Mahala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tisra. These were the clans of Manasseh, and those numbered were 52,700. These were the descendants of Ephraim by their clans, through Shuthelah, the Shuthelite clan, through Becher, the Becherite clan, through Tahan, the Tahanite clan. These were the descendants of Shuthelah, through Aaron, the Aaronite clan. These were the clans of Ephraim. Those numbered were 32,500. These were the descendants of Joseph by their clans. The descendants of Benjamin by their clans were through Bela, the Belanite clan, through Ashbel, the Ashbelite clan, through Ahiram, the Ahiramite clan, through Shampam, the Shampanite clan, through Humpham, the Humphamite clan, through the descendants of Bala, through Ard and Naaman were through Ard the Ardite clan, through Naaman the Naamanite clan. These were the clans of Benjamin. Those numbered were 45,600. These were the descendants of Dan by their clans. Through Shuam and the Shuamite clan. These were the clans of Dan. All of them were Shuamite clans, and those numbered were 64,400. The descendants of Asher by their clans. Through Imnah and Ammonite clan. Through Zishvi, the Ishvite clan. Through Beri, the Berite clan. And through the descendants of Beri. Through Heber, the Heberite clan. Through Machiel, the Machilite clan. And she had a daughter named Sarah. These were the clans of Asher. Those numbered were 53,400. The descendants of the Naphtali by their clans were through Jahaziel, the Jahzelite clan, through Guni, the Gunite clan, through Jezer, the Jezerite clan, through Shalem, the Shalemite clan. These were the clans of the Naphtali. Those who were numbered were 45,400. The total number of men in Israel was 601,730. The Lord said to Moses, "The land is to be allotted to them as an inheritance based on the number of their names. To a larger group, give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group, a smaller one. Each is to receive its inheritance according to the number of those listed. Be sure that the land is distributed by lot, when each group inheritance will be according to the names for its ancestral tribe. Each inheritance is to be distributed by lot among the larger and smaller groups." These were the Levites who were counted by their clans through Gershon, the Gershonite clan, through Kohath, the Kohathite clan, through Merari, the Merarite clan. These were also the Levite clans, the Libonite, the Hebronite clan, the Malite clan, the Mushite clan, the Korite clan. Kohath was the father of Aram. The name of Aram's wife was Jochebed, descendant of Levi, who was born to the Levites in Egypt. To Aram, she bore Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. Aaron was the father of Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, but Nadab and Abihu died when they made an offering before the Lord with unauthorized fire. All the male Levites, a month old or more, numbered 23,000. They were not counted among with the other Israelites because they received no inheritance among them. These are the ones counted by Moses and Eleazar the priest when they counted the Israelites on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Not one of them was among those counted by Moses and Aaron the priest when they counted the Israelites in the desert Sinai. For the Lord had told those Israelites they would surely die in the wilderness, and not one of them was left except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. Numbers chapter 27. The daughters of Zelophehad, son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, belonged to the clans of Manasseh, son of Joseph. The names of the daughters were Malha, Noah, Hoglah, Miklah, and Tisra. They came forward and stood before Moses, Eleazar, and the priest leaders, and those of the whole assembly at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and said, "Our father died in the wilderness. He was not among Korah's followers who banded together against the Lord, but he died for his own sin and left no sons. Why should our father's name disappear from his clan forever because he had no son? Give us property among our father's relatives." So Moses brought their case before the Lord, and the Lord said to him, "What Zelophehad's daughters are saying is right. You must certainly give them property as an inheritance among their father's relatives, and give their father's inheritance to them. Say to the Israelites, if a man dies and leaves no son, give his inheritance to his daughter. If he has no daughter, give his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, give his inheritance to his father's brothers. If his father had no brothers, give his inheritance to the nearest relative in his clan, that he may possess it. This is to have the force of law for the Israelites, and as the Lord commanded Moses." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go up to this mountain in the Abraham range, and see that I have given the Israelites after you have seen to it. See all that I have given the Israelites. After you have seen it, you too will be gathered to your people as your brother Aaron was. For when the community rebelled at the waters in the desert of Zin, both of you disobeyed my command to honor me as holy before their eyes. These were the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the desert of Zin." Moses said to the Lord, "May the Lord God, who gives breath to all living things, appoint someone over this community to go out and to come in before them, one who will lead them out and bring them in, so the Lord's people will not be like sheep without a shepherd." So the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua son of Nun, a man in whom the spirit of leadership, and lay your hand on him. Have him stand before Eleazar the priest and the entire assembly, and commission him in their presence. Give him some of your authority, so the whole Israelite community will obey him. He is to stand before Eleazar the priest, who will obtain decisions for him by inquiring of Urim before the Lord. As at his command, he and the entire community of the Israelites will go out, and at his command they will come in. Moses did as the Lord commanded him. He took Joshua with him and stood before Eleazar the priest, who gave an assembly. Then he laid his hands on him and commissioned him as the Lord said through Moses. Numbers chapter 28. The Lord said to Moses, give this command to the Israelites and say to them, make sure that you present to me at the appointed time my food offerings as an aroma pleasing to me. Say to them, this is the food offering you are to present to the Lord: 2 lambs a year old without defect as a regular burnt offering. Each day offer 1 lamb in the morning and the other at twilight, together with a grain offering, with 1/10 of an ephah of the first flour mixed with 1/4 hin of oil from pressed olives. This is the regular burnt offering instituted at Mount Sinai as pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. The accompanying drink offering is to be 1/4 hin of fermented milk with each lamb. Pour out the drink offering to the Lord at the sanctuary. Offer the second lamb at twilight. Offer along with the same kind of grain, offering a drink offering that you offer in the morning. This is a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. On the Sabbath day, make an offering of 2 lambs a year old without defect, together with its drink offering and grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil. This is the burnt offering for every Sabbath, in addition to regular burnt offering with its drink offering. On the first of every month, present to the Lord a burnt offering of 2 bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs a year old without defect. With each bull there is to be a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. With the ram and the grain offering 2/10 of an ephah of the finest mixed with oil. And each lamb a grain offering 1/10 of an ephah of the finest mixed flour with oil. This is a burnt offering, pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. With each bull there is to be a drink offering of 1/2 hin of wine with the ram, and 1/3 of a hin of each, and with each lamb and 1/4 of a hin. This is the monthly burnt offering to be made in the new moon during the year. Besides the regular burnt offering with the drink offering, 1 male goat is presented to the Lord as a sin offering. On the 14th day of the first month, the Lord's Passover is to be held. On the 15th day of this month, there is to be a festival for 7 days. Eat bread made without yeast on the first day. Hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Present to the Lord a food offering consisted of burnt offering and 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With each bull offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil, and with the ram 2/10. With each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Each male goat and sin offering to make atonement for you. Offer these in addition to the regular atonement for you. Offer these in addition to the regular morning burnt offering. In this way, present the food offering every day for 7 days as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. It is to be offered in addition to the regular burnt offerings and his drink offering. On the 7th day, hold a sacred assembly and do no work. On the day of the first fruits, when you present to the Lord an offering of new grain in the festival of weeks, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Present a burnt offering of 2 bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year, and as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. With each bull there is to be a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah with the finest flour mixed with oil. With a ram 2/10, and each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include 1 male goat to make atonement for you. Offer these together with their drink offerings, in addition to the regular burnt offering of grain offering. Be sure the animals are without defect. Numbers chapter 29. On the first day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. It is a day when you're to sound the trumpets and rumble pleasing to the Lord. Offer a burnt offering to one young bull, one ram, and 7 male lambs as a year old, all without defect, with the bull offering and the grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour of olive oil, with the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include one male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. These are in addition to the monthly and daily burnt offerings, with their grain offerings and drink offerings as sacrifice. They are food offerings presented to the Lord, a pleasing aroma. On the 10th day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly. You must deny yourselves and do no work. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord a burnt offering of one young bull, one ram, 7 male lambs, a year old, all without defect. With the bull, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil, with the ram 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs 1/10. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering of atonement and regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offerings. On the 15th day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Celebrate a festival to the Lord for 7 days. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord a food offering consisting of burnt offering of 13 young bulls and 2 rams and 14 male lambs a year old, and all without defect. With each of the 13 bulls, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil, with each of the 2 rams 2/10, and with each of the 14 lambs 1/10. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 2nd day of the 12 young bulls, offer 12 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer their grain offering and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with the grain offering and the drink offerings. On the 4th day, offer 10 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs, all year old without defect. With the bulls, rams, lambs, offer the grain offerings and the drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the 5th day, offer 9 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs, a year old without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, and the grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offering. On the 6th day, offer 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, all year old without defect. With the bulls, rams, lambs, and of the grain offering and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, and in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering as a drink offering. On the 7th day, offer 7 bulls and rams, 7 bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male lambs, a year old without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, offer the grain offering and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to a regular burnt offering with its grain and drink offering. On the 8th day, hold a closing special assembly and do no regular work. Present an aroma pleasing to the Lord, a food offering consisting of burnt offering of 1 bull, a ram, and 7 male lambs, a year old without defect. With the bull, the ram, and the lambs, offer the grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. In addition to whatever you vow to the free will offerings, offer to the Lord at your appointed festivals, your burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, and fellowship offerings. Moses said to the Israelites all that the Lord had commanded him. Numbers chapter 30. Moses said to the heads of the tribes of Israel, "This is what the Lord commands. When a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word, but must do everything he said. When a young woman still living in her father's household makes a vow to the Lord or obligates herself by a pledge, and her father hears about her vow or pledge, but says nothing to her, then all her vows and every pledge by which she obligated herself will stand. But if her father forbids her when he hears about it, none of their vows or the pledges by which she obligated herself will stand, for the Lord will release her because her father has forbidden her. If she marries after she makes a vow, or after her lips utter a rash promise by which she obligates herself, and her husband hears about it but says nothing to her, then her vows or the pledges by which she is obligated herself will stand. But if her husband forbids her when he hears about it, this nullifies the vow that obligates her the rash promise by which she obligates herself to the Lord will release her. Any vow or obligation taken by a widow or a divorced woman will be binding on her. If a woman living with her husband makes a vow or obligates herself by a pledge under oath, and her husband hears about it but says nothing to her, and does not forbid her, then all her vows and pledges by which she obligated herself will stand. But if her husband nullifies them when he hears about them, then none of the vows or pledges that came from her lips will stand. Her husband has nullified them, and the Lord will release her. Her husband may confirm or nullify any vow she makes, or any sworn pledge to deny herself. But if her husband says nothing to her about it from day to day, then he confirms all her vows and pledges binding on her. He confirms them by saying nothing to her when he hears about them. If, however, he nullifies them sometime after he hears about them, then he must bear the consequences of her wrongdoing. These are the regulations the Lord gave to Moses concerning relationships between a man and his wife, and between a father and his young daughter still living at home. Numbers chapter 31. The Lord said to Moses, "Take vengeance on the Midianites for the Israelites. After that you will be gathered to your people." So Moses said to the people, "Arm some of your men and go to war against the Midianites, so they may carry out the Lord's vengeance on them. Send into battle 1,000 men from each tribes of Israel." So 12,000 men armed for battle, 1,000 from each tribe, were supplied from the clans of Israel. Moses sent them into battle, 1,000 from each tribe, along with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, who took with him the articles from the sanctuary and the trumpets for signaling. They fought against Midian, and the Lord commanded Moses, and as the Lord commanded Moses, and killed every man. Among their victims were Evi, Rechem, Zur, Ur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. The Israelites captured the Midianite women and children, and took all the Midianite herds, flocks, and goods of splendor. They burned all the towns where the Midianites had been settled, as well as their camps. They took all the plunder and spoils, including the people and animals. And Eleazar the priest and the Israelite assembly at their camp on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Moses, Eleazar, and the priests and the leaders of the community went to meet them outside the camp. Moses was angry with the officials of the army and the commanders of the thousands and the commanders of the hundreds who returned from the battle. "Have you allowed all the women to live?" he asked them. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord in the pure incident, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has not slept with a man. Anyone who has killed someone or touched someone who was killed must stay out of the camp for 7 days. On the 3rd and 7th days you must purify yourselves and your captives. Purify every garment as well as everything made of leather, goat hair, or wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the soldiers who had gone into battle, "This is what is required by the law that the Lord gave Moses: gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, lead, and anything else that can withstand fire must be put through fire, and then it will be clean. But if it must also be purified by the water of cleansing. But it must also be purified by the water of cleansing, and whatever cannot withstand fire must be put through the water. On the 7th day wash your clothes, and you will be clean. Then you may come into the camp." The Lord said to Moses, "You and Eleazar the priest and the family heads of the community are to count all the people and animals that were captured. Divide the spoils equally between the soldiers who took part in the battle and the rest of the community. From the soldiers who fought in the battle, set apart a tribute for the Lord, 1 out of every 500, whether people, cattle, or donkeys. Take this tribute from the share and give it to Israel the priest. Give it to Eleazar the priest as the Lord's part from the Israelites' half. Select 1 out of every 50, whether people, cattle, or donkeys, sheep, or animals. Give them to the Levites who are responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle." So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded. The plunder remaining from the spoils that the soldiers took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had never slept with a man. The half share of those who fought in the battle was 337,500 sheep, of which tribute for the Lord was 675, 36,000 cattle, of which the tribute for the Lord was 72, 30,500 donkeys, of which the tribute for the Lord was 61, 16,000 people, of whom the tribute for the Lord was 32. Moses gave the tribute to Eleazar the priest is the Lord's part, and as the Lord commanded Moses. The half belonging to the Israelites, which Moses set apart from that fighting men, that community was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. From the Israelites half, Moses selected one out of every 50 people and animals, as the Lord commanded him, and gave them to the Levites, who were responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle. Then the officers over the units of the army, the commanders of the thousands and the commanders of the hundreds, went to Moses and said to him, Your servants have counted the soldiers under our command, and not one is missing. So we have brought an offering to the Lord of the gold articles each of us acquired, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted for them the gold and the crafted articles, and all the gold from the commanders of the thousands and commanders of the hundreds that Moses and Eleazar presented as a gift to the Lord weighed 16,750 shekels. Each soldier had taken plunder for himself. Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from the commanders of the thousands and the commanders of the hundreds, and brought it to the tent of the meeting for the memorial through the Lord. The Reubenites and Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw that the lands of Jazer and Gilead were suitable for livestock. So they came to Moses and Eleazar the priest and to the leaders of the community and said, Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elah, Siwa, Nebo, and Beon, in the land the Lord subdued before the people of Israel, are suitable for livestock, and your servants here have livestock. If we found favor in your eyes, they said, let the land be given to your servants as our possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan. Moses said to the Gadites and Reubenites, should your fellow Israelites go to war, will you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from crossing over into the land the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. After they went up the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, they discouraged the Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given them, the Israelites. Already given them. The Lord's anger was aroused that day, and he swore this oath, because they have not followed me wholeheartedly. Not one of those who were 20 years old or more when they came up out of Egypt will see the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not one except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they followed the Lord wholeheartedly. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years, until the whole generation of those who had done evil in his sight was gone. And here you are, a brood of sinners, standing in the place of your fathers and making the Lord even more angry with Israel. If you turn away from following him, he will again leave all his people in the wilderness, and you will be the cause of their destruction. Then they came up to him and said, we would like to build pens here for our livestock and cities for our women and children, but we will arm ourselves for battle and go ahead of the Israelites until we have brought them to their place. Meanwhile, our women and children will live in fortified cities for protection from the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each of the Israelites has received their inheritance. We will not receive any inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, because our inheritance has come to us on the east side of the Jordan. Then Moses said to them, if you will do this, if you will arm yourselves before the Lord for battle, and if all of you who are armed cross over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out before him, then when the land is subdued before the Lord, you may return and be free from your obligation to the Lord and to Israel, and this land will be your possession before the Lord. But if you fail to do this, you will be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. Build cities for your women and children and pens for your flocks, but do what you have promised. The Gadites and Reubenites said to Moses, we, your servants, will do as our Lord commands. Our children, wives, and our flocks and herds will remain here in the cities of Gilead, but your servants, every man who is armed for battle, will cross over to fight before the Lord, just as our Lord says. Then Moses gave orders about them to Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, to the family of the heads of the Israelite tribes. He said to them, if the Gadites, Reubenites, every man armed for battle, cross over the Jordan before you, then when the land is subdued before you, you must give them the land of Gilead as their possession. But if they do not cross over with you armed, they must accept their possession with you in Canaan. The Gadites and the Reubenites answered, "Your servants will do what the Lord has said. We will cross over before the Lord into Canaan armed, but the property we inherit will be on this side of the Jordan." Then Moses gave to the Gadites and the Reubenites and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, of the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, the kingdom of Og and the Bashan, and the whole land, with the cities and territories all around them. The Gadites built up Dibon, Atra, Ahar, Sepharad, Jazer, Jagleba, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran as fortified cities, and built pens for their flocks. And as the Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elah, and Kithrim, as well as Nebo and Baal Meon, these names were changed. And Sibam, they gave names to the cities they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Massa, who went to Gilead, captured it, and drove out the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to the Machirites, the descendants of Manasseh, and they settled there. Jair, descendant of Manasseh, captured the settlements, called them Havoth Jair, and Noba captured Kenath and its surrounding settlements, and called it Nobath after himself. Numbers chapter 33. Here are the stages of the journey of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt by divisions under their leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages of their journey. This is their journey by stages. The Israelites set out from Ramses on the 15th day of the first month, the day of the Passover. They marched out defiantly in full view of all the Egyptians who were burying all their firstborn, who the Lord had struck down among them. The Lord had brought judgment on their gods. The Israelites left Ramses, camped at Succoth. They left Succoth, camped at Etham on the edge of the desert. They left Ephraim, turned back to Pi-Hahiroth, the east of Baal-Zephon, and camped near Migdol. They left Pi-Hahiroth and passed through the sea into the desert, where they had traveled 3 days in the desert of Etham. They camped at Marah. They left Marah and went to Elam, where they had 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. They left Elam and camped by the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and camped by the desert of Sin. They left the desert of Sin and camped by Dophkah. They left Dophkah and camped by Alush. They left Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water left for the people to drink. They left Rephidim and camped at the desert Sinai. They left the desert Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. They left Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and camped at Rithmeth. They left Rithmeth and camped at Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Rissa. They left Rissa and camped at Keheleth. They left Keheleth and camped at Mount Shepher. They left Mount Shepher and camped at Harda. They left Harda and camped at Machpelah. They left Machpelah and camped at Tahath. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mikloth. They left Mikloth and camped at Hashmona. They left Hashmona and camped at Moseroth. They left Moseroth and camped at Ben-Jachin. They left Ben-Jachin and camped at Hor-Haggidgad. They left Hor-Haggidgad and camped at Jothbath. They left Jotbatha and camped at Abranah. They left Abranah and camped at Ezon-Geber. They left Ezon-Geber and camped at Kadesh in the desert of Zin. They left Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor on the border of Edom. At the Lord's command, Aaron the priest went up from Mount Hor, where he died on the first day of the 5th month of the 40th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. Aaron was 123 years when he died on Mount Hor. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negev, the Canaan, heard the Israelites were coming. They left Mount Hor and camped at Zalmunna. They left Zalmunna and camped at Punion. They left Punion and camped at Arbath. They left Obereth and camped at Aber in the border of Moab. They left Abarab and camped at Dibon-Gad. They left Dibon-Gad and camped at Ammon-Dalathiam. They left Ammon-Dalathiam and camped in the mountains of Abram near Nebo. They left the mountains of Abraham and camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan, across of Jericho. There on the plains of Moab, they camped along the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth to Al Shittim. On the plains of Moab, they by the Jordan, across from Jericho. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the lands before you. Destroy all their carved images and cast their idols and demolish their high places. Take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given you this land to possess. Distribute the land by lot according to your clans. To a larger group give a larger inheritance, to a smaller group give a smaller one. Whatever falls to them by lot will be theirs. Distribute it according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. Numbers chapter 34. The Lord said to Moses, command the Israelites and say to them, whenever you enter Canaan, the land that will be allotted to you as an inheritance is to have these boundaries. Your southern side will include some of the desert of Zin along the border of Edom. Your southern border will start in the east of the southern end of the Dead Sea, cross the south of Scorpion Pass, continue on to Zin, and go to the south of Kadesh Barnea. There it will go to Hazar Adar, and over to Azram, where it will join the Wadi of Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. Your western boundary will be the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. This will be the boundary on the west. For your northern border, run a line from the Mediterranean Sea to the Mount Hor, and from Mount Hor to Lebo Hamath, and then from the boundary will go to Zedad, continue to Ziphron and Hazar-Enan, and this will be your boundary on the north. For your eastern boundary, to run a line from Hazar-Enan to Shephim. The boundary will go down the slopes east of the Sea of Galilee. Then the boundary will go down along the Jordan and at the end of the Dead Sea. This will be your land with its boundaries on every side. Moses commanded the Israelites to assign this land by lot as an inheritance. The Lord has ordered that it be given to the 9.5 tribes, because the families of the tribe of Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance. These are the half tribes. These 2.5 tribes have received their inheritance east of the Jordan, across from Jericho toward the sunrise. The Lord said to Moses, these are the names of the men who are to assign the land for you as inheritance. Eleazar, the priest of Joshua, son of Nun, and appoint one leader from each tribe to help assign the land. These are their names: Caleb, son of Jephunneh, from the tribe of Judah; Shemuel, son of Ahmed, from the tribe of Simeon; Eldad, son of Kislon, from the tribe of Benjamin; Buki, son of Jogli, the leader of the tribe of Dan; Hanil, son of Ephah, the leader of the tribe of Manasseh and son of Joseph; Kemuel, son of Siphtan, the leader of the tribe of Ephraim, son of Joseph; Eleazar, son of Parduk, the leader from Zebulun; Paltiel, the son of Asan, the leader from the tribe of Ishkar; Ahidad, the son of Shema, the leader from the tribe of Asher; Padahel, son of Amminhud, the leader from the tribe of Naphtali. These are the men the Lord commanded to assign the inheritance to the Israelites in the land of Canaan. Numbers chapter 35. On the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, command the Israelites to give the Levites towns to live in from the inheritance the Israelites will possess, and give them pasture lands around the towns. Then they will have towns to live in and pasture lands for the cattle they own and all their other animals. The pasture lands around the towns that you give the Levites will extend out 1,000 cubits from the town wall. Outside the town, measure 2,000 cubits on the east side, 2,000 on the south side, and 2,000 on the west, and 2,000 on the north, with the town in the center. They will have these areas for pasture land for their towns. 6 of your towns you give Levites will be cities of refuge to which a person who has killed someone may flee. In addition, give them 42 other towns. In all, you must give the Levites 48 towns together with pasture lands. The towns that you give the Levites with the land the Israelites possess are to be given in proportion to the inheritance of each tribe. Take many towns from a tribe that has many, but few from one that has few. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites, and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, select some towns to be your cities of refuge, for which a person who has killed someone accidentally may flee. They will be places of refuge from the avenger, so that anyone accused of murder may not die before they stand before the assembly. The 6 towns you give will be your cities of refuge. Give 3 on this side of the Jordan, and 3 on this side of the Jordan, and 3 in Canaan as cities of refuge. These 6 towns will be places of refuge for Israelites and all foreigners residing among them, so that anyone who has killed another accidentally can flee there. If anyone strikes someone a fatal blow with an iron object, that person is a murderer. The murderer is to be put to death. Or if anyone holding a stone and strikes someone a fatal blow with it, that person is a murderer. The murderer is to be put to death. Or if anyone holding a wooden object strikes someone a fatal blow with it, then that person is a murderer and is to be put to death. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death. When the avenger comes upon the murderer, the avenger shall put the murderer to death. If anyone with malice or afterthought shoves another or throws something at them intentionally so that they die, or if out of enmity one person hits another with their fist so that the other person dies, that person is to be put to death. That person is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when they meet. But if without enmity someone accidentally pushes someone, throws something at someone unintentionally, or without seeing them drops on them a stone heavy enough to kill them, and they die, and since that other person was not an enemy and no harm was intended, the assembly must judge between the accuser and the avenger of the blood according to these regulations. Then the assembly must protect the one accused of murder from the avenger of blood, and send the accused back to the city refuge which they fled. The accused must stay there until the death of the high priest, who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the accused ever goes outside the city limits of the city of refuge to which they fled, the avenger of the blood finds them outside the city. The avenger of the blood may kill the accused without being guilty of murder. The accused must stay in the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. Only after the death of the high priest may they return to their own property. This is to have the force of law for you through the generations to come. Wherever you live, anyone who kills a person is to be put to death as a murderer only on the testimony. Or anyone who kills a person is to be put to death as a murderer on the testimony of witnesses, but no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. Do not accept ransom for the life of a murderer who deserves to die. They are to be put to death. Do not accept ransom for anyone who has fled a city of refuge, and so allow them to go back and live on their own land before the death of the high priest. Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land, and the atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of the one who has shed it. Do not defile the land where you live and where I dwell, for I am the Lord, where I, the Lord, dwell among the Israelites. Numbers chapter 36. The family heads of the clan of Gilon and Machir, the son of Manasseh, who were from the clans and descendants of Joseph, came before Moses, and the leaders of the heads of the families. They said, when the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land as inheritance to the Israelites by lot, he ordered you to give the inheritance of our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now suppose they marry men from the other Israelite tribes, when their inheritance will be taken from our ancestral inheritance and added to that of the tribe they marry into. And so part of the inheritance allotted to us will be taken away. When the year of Jubilee and the Israelites come, their inheritance will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and the property they will be, and their property will be taken from the tribal inheritance of our ancestors. Then the Lord commanded Moses to give this order to the Israelites, saying, what the tribe of the descendants of Joseph is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zelophehad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please as long as they marry within their father's tribal clan. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from one tribe to another, for every Israelite shall keep the tribal inheritance of their ancestors. Every daughter who inherits land in an Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess the inheritance of their ancestors. No inheritance may pass from one tribe to another, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land in inheritance. So Zelophehad's daughters did as the Lord commanded Moses. Zelophehad's daughters, Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, and Mikloth, and Noah, married their cousins from their father's side. They married within the clans of the descendants of Manasseh and Joseph, and their inheritance remained in their father's tribe's clan. These are the commands and the regulations the Lord gave to Moses, the Israelites on the plains of Moab by the Jordan from Jericho. Well, that concludes our reading for today of Numbers. Stay tuned tomorrow morning for Deuteronomy. Thank you for watching, and God bless.